Rick and Morty is one of the most popular shows out there, and its fan base is not to be messed with. Devoted Rick and Morty watchers have a serious love for the show, so much so that they investigate every little detail and come up with some of the wildest fan theories out there. Sometimes it seems like the fans know more about the show than the creators themselves. Hit the red subscribe button to be the first to know of all of the Schwiftiest Screen Rant content.
There's a bunch of people strapped all over that building! Not people, Morty. Mortys.
The character of Rick is such an enigma that most fan theories out there center around trying to better understand what makes the smartest man in the universe tick. But does anyone really know what Rick is thinking, or even if he is the Rick we think we know? This fan theory asks just that question, when it supposes that the Rick we follow on the show isn't the original Rick from that timeline. They propose that the Rick who originally belonged in this universe actually died when Beth was young, rather than abandoning her, and the Rick we know and love simply popped in and replaced him years later. The 20 years that Rick spent away from Beth and her family really raised some questions in Rick and Morty fans' minds, and this theory expands on that gap, but takes it to another new direction. It states that Rick never actually left, that he remained in Beth's life the entire time, but then something happened, something so unforgivable that Rick erased the family's memories of him for the last 20 years, and fabricated the story of his disappearance instead. Whatever it was, must have been pretty bad for a decades-long abandonment to be the happier alternative. Another big question in fans' minds is the question of who's Beth's mom. In Season 3, Episode 1, we almost got the answer, but that backstory turned out to be faked by Rick. Left to their own devices, fans came up with a pretty awesome explanation. They suggest that Unity, the hive mind capable of entering and controlling the minds around it, who has a long romantic history with Rick, might actually be Beth's mom. It would have had to have been another woman's body being inhabited by Unity for this to make sense, of course, but in the Rick and Morty universe, anything truly is possible. Another fan theory takes a crack at Beth's origin story, and this one really takes the cake. Remember Ms Frizzle, the redheaded teacher from the Magic Schoolbus? Well, one of the most popular theories out there is that Ms Frizzle is actually Rick's ex-wife. Think about it. They're both scientists, they both have technology to shrink down and travel within the human body, and to travel into space. Fans have gone so far as to suggest that Ms Frizzle's famous Magic Schoolbus was won by her in their divorce. Not to mention that Summer has red hair, which is known to be a recessive gene, skipping a generation and passing from grandparent to grandchild. Now that's a crossover episode we're dying to see.
I could do whatever you do and more, baby.
One more theory exists about Rick's wife, only this one isn't so much about who she is, but where she is. Some fans seem to think that something went wrong with an earlier version of Rick's portal gun, and that Beth's mother was sent into the unknown. They think it could explain why Rick is so depressed and angry, and why we don't really know what his greater mission is. He's searching for her under the guise of causing general mayhem. Just when you thought you knew the family, along comes a theory that ponders if Rick is actually Morty's father. Fans of this theory think that Rick and Morty aren't actually related. The multiple Ricks actually just place Mortys with the family to protect them until they are ready to start going on adventures. Speaking of family, apparently there might be another grandchild of Rick's out there, and she might be closer than we think. According to a fan, it's possible that Tammy is actually another granddaughter of Rick from another universe where she was born instead of Summer. Tammy seems to look a bit like Beth and has the same hair color as Jerry. She also is smart enough to live as an undercover agent, fooling even Rick himself. Perhaps his abandonment of her timeline sent her on a quest for revenge, leading her to join the Galactic Federation in order to track down her grandpa. While we're on the subject of Tammy and the Federation, there's an interesting theory out there about how they were finally able to track down the Rick from our timeline. In the pilot episode, Rick has Morty smuggle Megaseeds through interdimensional customs, and when they get caught, they wind up jumping through a portal and appearing in the middle of a cafeteria at Morty and Beth's high school. Fans concluded he was spotted by Tammy at the high school, who goes on to befriend Beth in an effort to get closer to the family and keep tabs on Rick. If only Bird Person could have been spared in the process, right? Why was Rick so desperate to get his hands on those Megaseeds, though? We know that they temporarily cause hyperintelligence, but if Rick is the most intelligent person in the universe, then why would he need them in the first place? Could it be that the Megaseeds are actually what makes him so smart? Some fans think so. Since we never know what Rick is drinking out of his famous flask, some have put 2 and 2 together and decided that it's actually Megaseed juice and that he is constantly drinking it in order to maintain his exceptional intelligence.
You gotta do it for Grandpa, Morty. You gotta put these seeds inside your butt.
In my butt?
Come on, Morty. Please, Morty. You have to do it, Morty.
Whether it's Megaseeds or just a generally high IQ, we all know Rick is smarter than just about anyone else out there. So smart, he might actually be aware that he is the star of a television show. He breaks the fourth wall in almost every episode and is constantly referencing the fact that what we are watching is in fact episodes. So this fan theory actually seems pretty likely. It also adds to his rebellious nature, as he is fighting against the creators who keep him contained within the show. If Rick is stuck inside a TV show, what show is he contained in, to be exact? Fans wonder if he and Jerry are actually still trapped in the simulation from the mind-blowing episode M. Night Shyamalan's. Stringing together clues from the episode, like a recurring alien that turns out to be a Plutonian and the disappearance of Jerry's tuxedo, some out there make the case Rick and Jerry are forever trapped in a treadmill-like simulation created by alien David Cross. Could the entire show take place within the video game Roy version 3? The original Roy that allows the player to live out the life of a normal man until his death was introduced in an earlier episode, and some believe the show is simply a part of the ultimate Roy game. But this time, Roy is Morty. Someone at the arcade has played the character of Morty from birth and still plays today.
Aren't you handsome?
Thank you. I'm Jerry.
Oh, I know you are.
Oh, Jerry, the unfortunate father everyone loves to hate, or hates to love, in Beth's case. Some theorists have suggested Jerry is actually not the Jerry we started out with, but was switched out for another version when Rick committed him to the Jerry daycare in Season 2. Rick was either given the wrong ticket to pick him up, or didn't really care which one he got, and nobody ever noticed. The Morty we know and love might not actually be the only Morty whose adventures we follow after all. Some believe almost every episode of Rick and Morty follows a different pair of Ricks and Mortys. We know that our pair belong to Earth C-137, but there seems to be a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that we might be following the adventures of Ricks and Mortys from other timelines without even noticing. This might even include a universe in which Rick had a plan to kill Morty. In Season 3, Episode 10, when Morty takes off with Rick's portal gun to protect his family, Rick later shows up with a gun, claiming he was going to kill Jerry with it. Some think his actual intention was to kill Morty, to prevent him from becoming another Evil Morty if left to his own devices. Evil Morty intrigues fans so much there are a million theories just about him. One of them theorizes the Citadel of Ricks was constructed to defeat Evil Morty. Ricks are notoriously independent people, but Evil Morty must have been such a threat that they organized in order to take him down together. Clearly they haven't succeeded yet, but we definitely haven't seen the last of Evil Morty. There's a common belief our Morty is not this Rick's original Morty. In the opening titles, there are multiple moments that look like they could be fatal to Morty. This includes getting eaten by 3 green aliens, and most fans believe this actually happened. The original Morty died on an adventure, and like we have seen him do, Rick simply hopped into a universe with an existing Morty and either a dead or missing Rick, and kept on from where he left off. Another slightly more obscure theory is all Mortys eventually become Ricks. This one is a bit tough to untangle, but the general idea is that Morty will grow into Rick, and the reason Rick has taken Morty under his wing is to try to prevent this from happening. But Rick, being the flawed person he is, continues to make the same mistakes as he always has, leading Morty to eventually become as jaded as he is, and they just keep going around and around forever. Most people who watch the show understand Rick suffers from some serious depression, but this theory suggests the character of Rick might actually represent depression. Dan Harmon has talked openly about his struggles with it, and has hinted Rick's manic behavior one minute and depressive behavior the next might be a metaphor for the illness itself.
Nothing you do matters. Your existence is a lie.
To continue along a more mystical path for a moment, some fans actually have come to the conclusion that Rick is God. Because of his ability to observe himself on a TV show, the way time seems to move differently around him, and his, well, huge God complex, the idea that the creators of the show would make an atheist scientist character into the Almighty himself is an idea that viewers of the show love to speculate about. Similarly, another popular theory states Rick is somehow immortal, and either he has created an immortality serum or devised some other way to cheat death entirely. Considering Rick, it doesn't sound too far-fetched. While we have seen other Ricks die in the past, perhaps our Rick is the only one to figure it out. One extremely existential fan has come to the conclusion the show is an explanation of the nature of human consciousness in its entirety. Rick represents each one of us, and every different universe and world are representative of the different parts of us, our ideas and emotions, and how we see the world. Put that in your squanch and squanch it. One of the best parts of Rick and Morty are the little side characters who show up for a minute to delight us. One of these delightful characters is Noob Noob, the janitor we meet in Season 3. Fans love him so much that they investigated a theory about him, that Noob Noob is actually part of their favorite TV show, Ball Fondlers. In trailers and clips of the show, we see a helicopter pilot who looks almost exactly like him, and fans have concluded they are one in the same. Another favorite side character is Mr Poopybutthole, the friend of the family that Beth accidentally shot when she mistook him for a parasite in disguise. Fans think Mr Poopybutthole is actually a parasite after all, but a much stronger one, hiding in the world, pretending to be Mr Poopybutthole to infiltrate the world around him, or it. Here's hoping he's not an evil parasite and that we see much more of him in Season 4. One of the most awesome theories out there is that the entire show is all about ice cream. There's a ton of ice cream in Rick and Morty. Characters of all kinds eat and talk about it in many episodes. So much so that it has led fans to wonder if the real reason Rick and Morty returned to this particular timeline is because Earth is the only planet which has invented real ice cream. It might be amazing if it turned out to be true, but this theory does sound a little ridiculous.
Yeah, it's delicious. It just goes right down. It's ice cream. I highly encourage everybody to try it. If you haven't tried ice cream.
What do you think about these fan theories? Do any of them sound like they could be right? Do you have any theories that we left out that we should know about? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for all the newest content from Screen Rant.